Nearly 90% of salespeople fail to hit their quotas.
Crazy, right?
We're diving into How to Get Rich by Felix Dennis today.
Yeah.
I know, the title. But stick with us. This deep dive is all about you, our sales-focused listeners. We'll be breaking down a blog post that summarizes Dennis's key insights. And the guy, well, he was a publishing legend, the brains behind Maxim magazine. He built empires. And that translates to sales success.
And Dennis doesn't try to make it sound easy. He tells it like it is, especially in sales. This blog post really gets that straight-talking approach.
So let's get into it. The blog opens with a bold statement. It says, if this book doesn't get you rich, nothing ever will. That gets your attention.
Doesn't it? It gets right to Dennis's core belief. Success, especially financial success, it takes a commitment most people just aren't willing to make. He calls it obsession. Powerful word.
It is. Because wanting something and being obsessed with getting it, two different things.
Yeah.
And the best in any field. Especially sales, they have that laser focus.
Yeah.
Their goals, they're all they think about.
Exactly. And Dennis says it's not just working hard, it's about truly believing you'll succeed. He talks about launching Maxim in the US, a market full of men's magazines already. Everyone said it was a terrible idea, but he was so sure it would work, he went all in. That conviction, that's what gets those incredible results. In sales. In life, it's the same.
So how can sales leaders take that obsession and make it work for their teams? You can't just tell someone to be obsessed, can you?
No, but you can create an environment that encourages that drive. Think about it. Athletes train hard. Musicians practice for hours. Top salespeople, it's the same. They need that fire, but they also need the right support.
Setting them up for success.
Exactly. Ambitious goals. Achievable, though. Training and development. A culture that celebrates those wins and has healthy competition.
And acknowledging those wins, big and small, that keeps the fire going right.
Absolutely. Success leads to more success. When salespeople feel like they're moving forward, hitting targets, being recognized, it just makes them want to keep pushing. It becomes a cycle.
Our sales leaders are loving this, I bet. Okay, moving on. Another big idea in the blog post is ownership. Dennis really believes that to build wealth, you need to have a stake in the game, not just work for someone else's dream.
And that's something a lot of people miss, especially early in their sales career. Everyone's focused on climbing that ladder, getting promoted, that they forget about the long term.
Giving away their equity too soon.
Yeah, you could say that. Dennis would say this applies not just to equity in a company, but to how you approach deals, your commission, even building your brand in the organization. Are you showing you're valuable, someone invested in the team's success? Or are you just following orders?
Big difference there. This is really making our listeners think, especially those in leadership. How are they encouraging ownership within their teams?
It's all about creating that environment where people feel invested, where their work matters, where they have a voice in decisions, where they can build something real for themselves and the organization.
Ownership equals empowerment.
Exactly. And empowered salespeople, they're engaged, they go above and beyond, they come up with new ideas, and they help the whole organization succeed in the long run.
Perfect segue into the next big idea from Dennis. And this one will hit home for anyone who built a successful sales career. Execution.
Ideas are cheap. Execution is everything. You can have the most amazing sales strategy, but if you don't actually do it, it's useless. And this is where so many salespeople, even sales leaders, get stuck.
It's easy to get lost in the planning the meetings right. At some point, you have to stop talking and start doing.
And Dennis is blunt about this. He says, ideas are a dime a dozen. It's the execution that separates the dreamers from the doers. In sales, you have to move fast. And being able to execute well consistently with urgency, that's how you see results.
So how do we bridge that gap between ideas and action?
It starts with a culture of action, clear expectations, the right resources and support, empowering your team to take charge and move without getting lost in the details.
And celebrate those wins as you go, the little victories. That builds momentum.
For sure. Success isn't just about the finish line, it's about the whole journey. If you can create an environment where people feel good about the process, where they want to take action and see results, that's when the magic happens. Welcome back. We're getting deeper into Felix Dennis's advice on sales success. And like we promised, we're talking about something crucial for handling the ups and downs of sales. Resilience.
Okay, resilience in sales. What does that actually look like?
Think of the rep who gets 10 no's in a row but still makes that 11th call. Same energy, same enthusiasm. Or the sales leader who loses a big deal. But then they turn around and rally their team. They figure out what went wrong and use it to make their strategy even better for next time.
So you're not saying avoid setbacks completely.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to happen in sales, is it?
Exactly. Dennis makes it clear. Setbacks happen. They have to. He actually says they're necessary for growth. Every failure. It's a lesson, a stepping stone to doing better.
So as the sales experts, how do we get that resilience in ourselves and our teams?
We have to change how we think about failure. Instead of seeing it as a loss, we need to see it as feedback. It tells us what's working, what isn't, and how we can tweak our approach to get better results.
So detach from the sting of rejection. See those no's as chances to learn and grow.
Right. Easier said than done, I know, especially when you're in the thick of it, trying to hit targets and prove yourself. But changing that mindset, it's essential if you want to succeed in sales long term.
Okay, but how do we actually do that? What are some ways to build resilience?
One great technique, a pre-mortem routine. Before a big pitch or a tough conversation, take a minute. Imagine it went badly. Ask yourself, why could this fail?
So you're getting ready for those setbacks before they even happen.
Yeah, you're mentally prepared.
Yeah.
And you're more likely to spot those problems ahead of time. And then you can come up with ways to handle them.
I like that. It's like you're taking some of the power away from those setbacks by being ready for them.
Exactly. And that feeling of control,
Yeah.
of being prepared, that's a big part of being resilient.
Another thing about Dennis's approach, he doesn't say you have to do it all alone. He talks about having the right people around you.
Oh, yeah. Having a good support network, mentors, peers, even therapists. They can give you advice, encouragement, a new way of looking at things when you're feeling stuck.
So for sales, that might be a great manager who coaches you and gives feedback. Or a team where everyone feels okay talking about challenges and supporting each other. Maybe even a mentor outside the company who gives you a different perspective.
Exactly. Because resilience isn't just about being tough on your own. It's about having a system that supports you, knowing you're not alone in those tough times and there are people you can go to for help.
That idea of community is so important. And it makes me think about another big part of sales success that Dennis doesn't talk about directly in his book, but it's key for a good career. The customer.
The heart of any good sales organization.
Dennis focuses on building wealth from an entrepreneur's point of view. But his ideas totally apply to building great customer relationships.
Totally. I'd say putting the customer first is crucial to actually living out the things Dennis talks about. Ownership, execution, resilience.
Let's break that down. How does focusing on the customer make those things stronger?
When you really want to understand your customer's needs, you take ownership of the whole sales process. You're not pushing a product, you're building trust. It's about both sides benefiting.
So not just thinking about each sale, but about the relationship.
Right. And when you do that, you naturally want to work harder to make things happen. You're more invested in finding the right solutions. You respond better to their concerns. You go the extra mile to make sure they're happy.
And that helps you bounce back. When you have those strong relationships, the setbacks, the lost deals, the tough situations, they don't hit as hard.
You're not just building a pipeline, you're building a network of people who believe in you and trust you. That loyalty, it's a cushion when things get tough in sales.
So Felix Dennis might not talk about customers directly and how to get rich, but his ideas work perfectly with putting the customer first.
I agree. Because building wealth, whether it's your own or the company's, is about giving value to other people. And in sales, that value comes from amazing customer experiences.
This has been such a great look at resilience and the customer. But before we move on, I want to touch on something else, action.
Dennis is all about action. He thinks too many people get stuck planning and thinking too much and never actually doing anything.
And that can kill you in sales. You can have the best product, the best pitch.
Sure.
But if you're not getting in front of customers, making calls, sending emails, you won't close any deals.
He has this line in the book. It's something like, the graveyard's full of people with great ideas who never did anything about them. It reminds us that in sales, like in life, taking action is how you unlock your potential.
So how do we as sales leaders get our teams to take action? How do we create a culture where people feel good about taking risks, experimenting, and moving forward, even when things are uncertain?
That's the question, isn't it? And that's what we're going to cover in the next part of our deep dive. We'll talk about specific ways to build that action-oriented culture in your sales organization. From setting clear goals, to giving the right tools and support, to celebrating those little wins that keep things moving.
Back again for the deep dive. We've been going deep with Felix Dennis's How to Get Rich and how it applies to sales leaders. Obsession, ownership, resilience, putting the customer first. But now, the thing that really separates those who dream of success from those who achieve it, action.
It's amazing how much Dennis stresses this throughout the book. Ideas, strategy is a great team. They're not enough. You have to actually get your hands dirty and do the work.
He's got some really strong lines about it, one from the blog post I remember. It was something like, execution is the difference between a good idea and a cold beer.
He does love a good, memorable phrase. It's all about turning those great ideas into something real. Making calls, sending emails, having those tough conversations. In sales, that's what it takes.
So our sales leaders are listening. How do you create that culture of action on your team? It's so easy to get stuck in planning and thinking everything to death.
Break down those big goals, the ones that feel impossible. Turn them into smaller, more manageable steps. Give your team a clear path. Lay out the milestones and actions they need to hit those targets.
So instead of just saying increase sales by 20% this quarter, you're giving them a roadmap.
Right. And it does two things. Makes those big goals seem less scary, and it gives a sense of progress along the way, which keeps everyone motivated and moving.
Speaking of motivation, celebrating those wins is huge, right? Big or small, that keeps the energy up and reinforces that action-oriented culture.
Absolutely. Make sure you're acknowledging those successes. A shout out in a meeting, a personal email. It doesn't have to be a big thing. But those little gestures create a positive environment.
Dennis also talks about giving your team the right tools. They can't get things done if they don't have what they need.
Couldn't agree more. Sales training programs, up-to-date tech and tools. Make sure they have the data and information they need to make smart decisions.
And it's not just about the tools themselves. It's about creating a space where they feel good about asking questions, talking about challenges, learning from mistakes.
Totally. Open communication. Collaboration. Encourage your team to share their wins and losses. Brainstorm solutions together. Learn from each other.
A team that works together wins together, as they say.
Exactly. That sense of being in it together, that commitment to success, that's what drives a culture of action.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to touch on something we mentioned earlier. Integrity.
Yeah.
Dennis is firm about this. Real lasting success has to come from doing things the right way.
He's very clear about that. It's easy to cut corners or compromise your values when you're chasing wealth. But he believes that in the end, integrity is the only way to build something that lasts.
And that's huge in sales. Trust is everything.
You can't fake it. Customers know when you're not being real, when you're not really trying to help them.
So as sales leaders, it's up to us to set that example.
Exactly. Be honest in everything you do. Treat your customers and your team with respect. And always do the right thing, even when it's hard.
Because at the end of the day, sales success isn't just about numbers. It's about building something you can be proud of.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about having a positive impact. On your customers, your team, your industry, that's what really matters.
This has been a fantastic look at how to get rich and what it means for sales leaders. We've talked about so much: obsession, ownership, resilience, taking action, putting the customer first.
And we added in those crucial elements of integrity and building a strong team. A complete roadmap for sales success that goes beyond just closing deals.
As we wrap up our deep dive today, think about these key takeaways. How can you use them in your own sales organization? Remember, success is a journey. With the right mindset, the right strategies, and a commitment to always learning, you can achieve anything.
Keep pushing, keep growing, keep leading with integrity. The world of sales is waiting for you.